Hey, I'm John Carlisle, and today I'm going to show you the DIY camera track system I made for my small shop. I do a lot of videos in the shop and need to capture some video from the bandsaw, occasionally the table saw. This is a disc belt sander, jet MIDI lathe. This is a Nova DVR lathe, another jet lathe, and a drill press. And this is the workroom and storage room. I wanted to get video down this section of the shop for each of the tools and possibly with multiple camera angles. When I started to do this build, I looked up several videos on YouTube for different ideas on how to mount a camera system to the ceiling in my shop. I found several videos that had different components that were of interest to me and combined them into the system that I'm going to show you in this video. I'll also reference those videos that I looked up from YouTube at the end of my video. This is not a build video where you see me cutting wood, drilling holes, and sanding boards. This is going to be more of a concept video where I show you the ideas that I had for my shop and how I put them together to make this system work for me. You're welcome to take any of these ideas and adapt them to your shop and your equipment. I also wanted to use materials that I had around the shop, whatever scrap, lumber, plywood, 2x4s, etc. As I put the project together, the only thing I needed to purchase were two 8-foot 2x4s and two 8-foot 1x4s that make up part of the ceiling track assembly. The rest of the wood, nuts and bolts, etc. I already had in the shop. I even found some inline skate wheels that I could use for the rollers for the trolley system, which I'll show you here shortly. I went through several design ideas before I ended up with the final product that was going to work for me. I'll show you some details of these as we go along. Like I said, I had several different ideas and finally figured out one that was going to work for me the best. I was also trying to keep this project as simple as I could and not have a bunch of components or mechanisms or spring swivels, etc., and trying to keep it as lightweight as possible. I have 3 cameras that I may be using in the shop to film the videos. One is a GoPro, one is a Panasonic camcorder, and a Canon M50 DSLR. I wanted to be able to use any of these cameras on my mounting system that I would be using in the shop. The project consists of 4 separate components. First, there's the ceiling track system. The second part is the rolling dolly swivel hanger component. The third component are the individual arms that hang from the dolly and that can be angled, tilted, adjusted as needed for your camera views. The fourth component are the individual camera mounts that will attach to the various length arms that mount to the system. Let's start with the second part first, which is the rolling trolley system, or mechanism, or component. This is mine. It actually hangs upside down like that in the trolley track. Like I said, I used some skateboard wheels that I found. I managed to find a bolt that would fit through them. And with the washer, this basically just screws into the 2x4 that I used for part of the blocking on the trolley component. you'll need to adapt this to however you're going to use or whatever for rollers to fix on your system. This one's made just from some 2x4s and a 1x4 and some plywood. The swivel mechanism has a through bolt that goes into the base, and it can swivel 360 degrees, and the arms will hang from this part of the component. For the time being, I put in a T-nut and bolt, and this just screws up to the bottom of the track and holds it in place to keep it from rolling while you're doing filming. This is the idea I have so far, and I'll modify this probably later on at some point. And now back to part one, the mounted ceiling track. I made mine out of 2x4s and 1x4s as the base for the rollers to sit on. You'll need to adjust your width of your 2x4s, etc., based on however you build your dolly. I put a spacer block at the top of my 2x4s that mount to the ceiling. I built all of this on the floor first, and then with the help of my wife, we managed to get it screwed up to the ceiling joist. I left the 1x4s the width that they are and did not trim them down to match the top part of the 2x4s. That way I have a little edge on each side of the track that I could mount additional lighting to with just a simple clamp. The third component of the system are the arms that I made from 1x4s of just various length. They all have a bolt in the end through a hole, just rounded them over so they can attach together. Also a little trick, if you put some sandpaper between the two pieces when you bolt them together, that'll help a whole lot in stopping them from moving. I made various size arms that I thought might be useful, plus that hang down vertically and go horizontally in orientation to mount on the cameras. I used bar knobs and star knobs to adjust and tighten those joints. I have a 3D printer and just made some bar knobs and epoxied a nut inside. I found that a 1x4 was sufficient to hold all of my camera equipment. My heaviest camera is the Canon M50 with a monitor and microphone attached. The various arms and the lengths of the 1x4 will allow me to position the camera at various angles from the subject. If I'm working on a lathe, I can get an overhead shot, I can get a side shot, and I can use multiple cameras. The fourth component of the system are the actual attachments for the cameras to the arms. And I wanted these to be able to move to a level position and also be able to swivel in 180 to 360 degrees in their pivot points. The first one I made was just a simple block of wood with the bolt to the arm and a threaded nut. For the GoPro camera, I used one of the attachments that came with the camera and just mounted it to a board. This is done with the bolt and T-nut. This is the arm. This part can swivel as needed. And this is the attachment. And it can go wherever direction you need it to go to. The camcorder and M50 both have standard tripod mounts, which is simply a 1/4 by 20 threaded hole in the bottom of the camera, which will accept a 1/4 by 20 threaded bolt or screw. This is a simple one here. It's got the camera arm. This is a 1/4 inch bolt, and the camera can sit right on top. That's the simple one. I actually found some old speaker mounts that had 1/4 by 20 threaded holes, So I decided to mount those onto one of the arms, and it looks like this. There again, this arm can adjust up and down any direction you want. This can swivel, and this mount can actually swivel and tilt. So that's how I ended up mounting the camcorder and the Canon M150 or the Canon M50. I combined all four components into a camera mount track system that works very good for me in my shop. It worked nicely when I first tried it, and then I decided to make a second trolley that can roll in the track, and I can have two sets of hanging arms and mount two cameras at the same time to get multiple camera views of the same project. Here's a view of the four adapters that I have made so far to fit the three cameras. Here's a multiple camera setup at one of my lathes. You got a camera set there down to the lathe. And you've got the GoPro looking at the other direction. There's one arm trolley. Here's the other arm trolley set up. These will allow me to work around the lathe, take videos, and not worry about knocking over tripods. And when you get done filming, doing your video, your arms can just fold up out of the way at the ceiling track. Then you can lower them down again when you need them. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.